sportsbookreview.com and SBRodds.com. It's another week, another day, another dollar. We are in the NFL. 45 minutes of action-packed fun. As usual, I'm Donnie Rightside, joined by Jay today from the Sports Keg. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Jay, it's Sunday. We got 45 minutes to let these people know what the deal is. How you doing today, my man?
This is what we live for, my friend. Everybody's throughout the summer talking about baseball. Me and you were talking about football every day of our life. I'm psyched. Can't wait to do it. Let's get it going.
Yeah, we'll have some fun today going over a couple things. As you guys know, the inactives just come out, so some fresh information. Lines are always moving, hence the show is called The Closing Line. If you like the show, please give a retweet. We'll certainly hang out and do a lot of stuff here in the chat box today, making sure we bring everything live to you. And by the way, Jay, I know you like to do a lot of live, betting, a lot of live game action. There's a team right now getting slugged over in London right now, and another touchdown is on the board, man.
Yeah, man. Christian McCaffrey has to be the best player right now in football. I thought Kamara was the best offensive player for the last couple of years, but this kid is a freak, man. He touches the ball more than anybody in the league, and I don't know what the live lines are right now. I don't have them up to see. But this was expected. Tampa Bay is garbage. Winston eats W's like once a year. So,
yeah, I'm trying to take a look here. Looks because I know they just scored again to make it 33-10. So I don't know if anything's updated yet. But Pinnacle and Chris showing 17.5 and 19.5 right now, which obviously was probably before. I'm going to assume before they just scored a touchdown. But it looks like they're going to tack it on to make it 34-10. And by the way, in this game, Jameis Winston has been absolutely horrific in this game, man.
Horrific. I mean, everybody was like, oh, maybe the kid's back when they beat the Rams 55-40. But I mean, I've never been a fan of the kid. Coming out of college, he was all right at FSU, but it's just never materialized for him. So he's an average quarterback at best. And man, the Panthers seem to be playing better with Allen than they did with Cam, huh?
No, you're absolutely right, because the good thing about the Buccaneers, which I like to see a franchise go in this direction, what I mean by that is you didn't extend Jameis Winston. You didn't pay him $100 million like you did with Carson Wentz or Jared Goff, saying, you know what, this is going to be my franchise guy. Let's invest and let's pay. There's an easy out clause at the end of the season, and good teams do this. When you get the new regime in town, when you get the new head coach in Arians, when you get the new offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich, it's their job to decide, you know what, Jay, is this going to be our quarterback of the future or not? And it looks like they're making it really easy for him at this point, Jay.
100%. Yeah, I didn't at the beginning of the year. I figured that this was it for Jameis Winston, but I would say by the midway point of this season, he would have solidified that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be moving on after the year.
No doubt about it. Manny Sanchez in here already busted my chops here, Jay. Donnie, Philly gets their wings clipped today in Minnesota. We'll get to all that and more. Let's keep it moving. Thank you for coming into the chat box. 85 people already in here. 3 minutes into the telecast. If you like the show, retweet it. Say hello in the chat box. Let's have some fun and get it going. We're going to start it right away right now. 1 o'clock game on the East Coast. Now, hey, we're gamblers. The good thing is there is a line on this football game. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be watching it. 253, 254, Cincinnati and Baltimore. Dalton and Jackson going to tee it up down in Baltimore today. Line opens up around that 10.5 range. We saw it spike a little bit, 11s, 11.5 with Jay. Now I'm seeing right now coming back to 10.5s across the board at SBRodds.com. Also an over-under that opened up in that 47, 48 range. We're now seeing 47s. And even at FanDuel, New Jersey, where both me and Jay are located, 46.5 is now showing up. Early thoughts on this game? To me, I think it's too many points, man. What do you think?
This is the problem, Donnie. I think the Baltimore Ravens are probably the most overrated team in football. Going into last week, they gave up the most yards per play in the National Football League. And I could not lay 10.5 with Baltimore, no matter how bad. I understand the Bengals are on 5, but I just can't lay 10.5 points right now with the Baltimore Ravens.
No, I think you're right. Now, look, Cincinnati hasn't really shown much. And we take a look at some, numbers to go over and injuries, because we always have the inactive list coming up. Let me just do a fresh check of what we have. Looks like Dunlop's going to miss the game. Glasgow, Cordy Glenn, AJ Green, of course, Andre Smith, and Kerry Wynn. So they are a banged-up group here. But what we don't really like overall about the Baltimore Ravens is when they step up in competition, they sort of cower a little bit. But when they're playing the lower-level teams, Arizona, 23-17, didn't put them away. Now, always with an asterisk, Jay, take a look. Look, they pounded Miami 59-10. Everybody pounds Miami. This team isn't really built right now. I think maybe a win and move on. We don't need style points in this one for the Ravens. Even in the Pick Six contest on sportsbookreview.com, I actually did take the Cincinnati Bengals plus the 11 points here today.
Well, I mean, look, a couple weeks back, the first Monday night show I think we did, you and I were on the Bengals against Pittsburgh, right?
Yep.
We got railroaded. They were never in the game. Andy Dalton looked terrible. But, yeah, would it surprise you to see the Ravens beat the Bengals by 21? No. But are you looking to lay 10.5? No. So it's a pass.
No, yeah, I can see your point on that. Now, if we take a look at a total in this, because we're talking about Cincinnati doesn't have the greatest offense, but again, this isn't the Baltimore defenses that we've seen over the past couple of years playing completely shut down. I think Cincinnati's going to be able to score, and then you have Lamar Jackson, who really should have enough time to do some damage. No Hollywood Brown at wide receiver, so maybe that big play is down a little bit. Andrews, the tight end, a little bit banged up. If I had to make a play in this game on the over-under, I probably still would, even though it's a division game and they usually know each other and all that stuff, I probably would still lean towards the over because I don't really know how much defense is going to be played in this ball game.
I agree completely because, like, you're right. You can't really trust the Cincinnati Bengals for points, right? But the Baltimore Ravens defense is really bad, Donnie. They're 24th in defensive DVOA this year. They're last in yards per play going into last week. So I agree with you. I think if you're going to look one way in this game, the only way to look is over the total.
No, I agree with you there. We'll keep it going here. And this is a really good game we're going to talk about and has a lot of line movement throughout the week and a lot of conjecture going back and forth on what to anticipate and what to expect. That's 255, 256. Seattle and Cleveland. Wilson, obviously, coming across from Seattle over to Cleveland. We know how the Seattle Seahawks sort of played down to their competition at times, but they did wax Arizona. But again, when we're talking about those lower level teams like the Arizona Cardinals and you take a look at the Miami Dolphins, you don't really get the full picture of things. Now, opening up as a favorite, Seattle in some spots, even Cleveland actually opened up offshore as we're checking out SBRodds.com as a favorite. Looks like it settled in because that early week charge here, Jay, was towards the Seattle Seahawks, -1.5, -2, -2.5 at some outlets quickly. But now we're seeing that role reversal, which now just about across the board. You still have DraftKings out of New Jersey with Seattle as a -1, but the prevailing number now is Cleveland as the favorite. And you know what, Jay? I actually agree with it here.
Okay. Well, last Monday on the Monday night show, Flash and I were talking about it. You could have got Seattle before that game started in that Cleveland game. You could have got Seattle at +2.5, right? Mm-hmm. So if you weren't on Seattle, there's no way that you can possibly be on Seattle right now, because in the NFL, you cannot lose a field goal's worth of value and expect to be successful long-term, right? So if you haven't bet this game, the only way you can look is Cleveland, right? But now I kind of like the over, Donnie. I know, listen, this is not the Legion of Boom. They're 22nd in DVOA. Could we agree that Russell Wilson is one of the three best quarterbacks in
Absolutely.
football?
Worth his weight. I say it every week. He's worth his weight. Literally, if he had to renegotiate his contract every week, he should be the highest paid player every single week. He means that much to him.
Is there any player that is worth more to their team than Russell Wilson?
No, no, absolutely not. You don't even need an offensive line, theoretically, with Russell Wilson. He's that good.
Exactly. So Seattle's going to put up their points. And I cannot expect, even though the Browns have lost 2 of their last 3, and they haven't put up a ton of points. They only put up 3 points last week against the 49ers. I think that they can put up some points on a defense that is not the Seattle defense we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years. So I think over 46 would be the way that I would be looking.
Yeah, you know what else is interesting, too, is you take a look at the inactives, always interesting. I mean, you had those freak injuries to Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams a couple weeks back in practice within 10 minutes of each other on like a normal Wednesday or Thursday practice. They're still going to be out. They're down for this game as well. The other interesting thing also when we take a look at the Seattle Seahawks and their inactives, Dwayne Brown is down, DJ Fluker is down. We all know that offensive line is banged up typically as it is and underperforms. But when you have Russell Wilson, sometimes, look, man, he's going to play street ball back there. And I always joke saying, you know what? Sometimes it's better to let 2 or 3 guys at Russell Wilson. He jukes those guys, rolls out of the pocket. Right. Those guys play street ball down the field. He's one of the best, but they are some injury situations. The one thing that's interesting, because if we take a look, and a lot of people, Jay, get caught up in their eyes of what they say. You say, you know what? Right. How the hell can you back the Cleveland Browns in the spot? I watch, the Seattle Seahawks week in and week out. Well, if you take a look, outside outside of the Arizona game, 27-10, that they handled their business on the road when they played the Cardinals. They've been in close fights here. Now, also, you could take a look and say, you know what? I'm a firm believer, which I usually am, Jay, in taking the extra time to prepare, the extra time to rest, relax, get ready for the next opponent, which we saw Seattle getting those extra couple days playing on Thursday Night Football, and you saw the Cleveland Browns get waxed on Monday Night Football. This is one of those games where I think the Browns are going to have to bow up in this one, say, you know what? Season on the line again in this one, the same way we had that effect with the Baltimore Ravens game. So I'm liking Cleveland today in this game. Any looks on the side, or are you just more looking at the total itself?
I would probably lean your way, but I would think that what I like the most is probably the over. And I think that you're right. The Seattle Seahawks have been in really close games. They should have lost last week against the Rams, right? Correct. They get the 1-point win. Yep. They beat up on the Cardinals, but before that, they lost a close game against the Saints. So they have been playing close games. I don't mind the Browns here.
Yeah, and also when you're taking a look at it as well, they go to Pittsburgh, that game that Ben Roethlisberger was down, late first quarter, early second quarter. That game plays close, 28-26 final score. It's going to be a tough one. It's always hard betting on Russell Wilson, especially in a game where you're saying, you know what, Russ just needs to win the football game and they can prevail. It should be a good one in Cleveland. I think they're going to bow up today and get some help. And I think the front line, that front four from Cleveland, can have a little bit of an impact on the game today. Again, we're talking about one of those teams, Jay, that plays on turf, that feeds off the crowd at home. Now they're going to go on the road, come east, play a little bit different of a time zone, and also play on grass. But it's it's a good one at 1:00 that we'll mostly have our eyes checked in on. Next game we're going to talk about, this is one of my favorites of the week. One of those, look, I'm an Eagles fan, so of course I'm going to be watching the Eagles game, but my eyes are going to be on this one. Houston and Kansas City, 257, 258 in the rotation, bouncing around. We're talking about, Jay, 6.5 Pinnacle opens up offshore, 7.5 Chris opens up offshore. You know what we're staring at right now across the board? 3.5. And I wanted to watch to see the inactive reports come back to see what we take a look at this week. Obviously, we know Mahomes is going to play, but he did bang up his ankle last week in their football game versus the Indianapolis Colts. But Tyreek Hill is available. The jetpack is back to take the top off the defense. That opens up everything underneath for some speedy wide receivers. Travis Kelce over the middle. This is going to be a really good one. Now, sidewise, I still do lean towards Houston, but as we said, we're on the closing line. So me and Jay can't come on the show and say, you know what? We're taking the 6.5. I got it early in the week. Got to give you pertinent information that means today. I still lean towards Houston, but you know what? All I wanted to see was Tyreek Hill in this football game. I think a huge game for the Houston offense today. Give me the over 54.5 in this one for me, Jay.
Donnie, can you explain why why this line's moving so far towards Houston? I don't understand why. I mean, is it recency bias because they saw the Colts beat Kansas City last week? I don't understand why this line has moved so heavily in the favor of the Texans.
I think when you look at the matchups itself, right? I mean, both these teams are going to be able to score. They got really dynamic quarterbacks, and these defenses, look, Houston has a much better pass rush, I think we could both agree, than the Kansas City Chiefs. But Kansas City damaging their defensive line last week, losing their best defender, the best defensive tackle last week. And now you're going to come into this game and say, all right, well, how much is Tyreek Hill actually going to play in this football game? Is he going to be full go 100% because he was a game-time decision, and they do have a Thursday night football game that's sitting there on deck. The line movement, I think, comes from, you know what? I don't really think too many people are going to stop it. And yes, people are going to look at last week against the Indianapolis Colts and say, look, there's the game plan right there. Get a mobile quarterback, run the football a little bit. They should be able to stack up. But again, it gets back to the point here. We're not talking 6.5 where you say, Jay, hey, they just have to hang around in this football game. If we're talking 3.5, you probably need Houston to win the game outright in order to cash that ticket.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you got this line at the beginning of the week, you're really happy with a Texans ticket in your pocket. At 3.5, I would probably lean towards the Chiefs, but I think the play on the game, you nailed it. Points. I think the Texans probably have the best trio of wide receivers in the football league right now. Mm-hmm. And Carlos Hyde does his thing, Duke Johnson does his thing. That Mahomes is not going to put up 13 points again, like he did last week. What's the total sitting at right now? 54?
It's actually 54.5. Chris just made the move to 55 at SBRodds.com. The Sugar House in New Jersey has it at 55.5 with a little bit of juice towards the under. But I would assume most people in the betting public gets a hold of it. Oh, Tyreek Hill is playing. They're probably going to smash that. I wouldn't be surprised if it closed at 55 across the board here, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I like the over because of all the weapons that are going to be on the field for both teams. It's a little concerning that the Texans right now are just outside the top 10 in defense adjusted value over average. But I'm not really that concerned about it when you're talking about a team that could just, score at will. Last week was the anomaly for Patrick Mahomes. It was the exception, not the rule. So, yep, points. Let's go over.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I mean, it's rare, and they took the loss last week, Kansas City. You can't afford another loss if you're going to try to play that home field advantage game with New England, which everybody's trying to avoid. But hey, Jay, when New England plays, high school teams each and every week and runs out to a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-0 record, it's going to be hard to chase them down. They can't afford another loss today. I do think Deshaun Watson is going to be game. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think that offense is going to operate, but I also think you're right. We're not going to see a 13-point effort from Kansas City, regardless of how good that pass rush from J.J. Watt and company is. Right. We'll keep moving along. Another 1 o'clock game, 259, 260, and we're seeing a lot of line movement in this game throughout the week. The New Orleans Saints, depending on where you opened up, some had it at pick 'em, some had Jacksonville favored at 2.5 offshore. Let's just say it opened up around a pick 'em range. It's been clearly the move during the week has been to Jacksonville. Now, also a couple I'd like to add in, some parameters have changed in this game. And this sometimes gets tough. And if you're reading the tea leaves and if you follow a lot online, trying to get some injury information and looking for some of those edges, you see Alvin Kamara come up dinged up in practice on Thursday and leave and listed as limited. Then Friday, which is usually a lighter practice day, he doesn't practice at all. So they're trying to keep him off his ankle. He does go through the walkthrough Saturday. He is active for the ball game today is big. But also on the opposite side, Jay, when we take a look at, the kumbaya moments with Shad Khan and Jalen Ramsey, you know what? We had a heart-to-heart. I think we mended the fences. He's going to play this weekend. Jalen Ramsey does not want to play for the Jaguars. And, of course, it comes out today. He's inactive for the football game today.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. So where's the line sit right now?
Looks like we got it across the – if we say like with you, it's -2.5, -112 at Pinnacle. But then across the board, you're getting, threes with juice, 2.5s with juice. I would say the prevailing line right now is 2.5 across the board with a little bit of juice.
Let me ask you a question. Are you, I know they won 3 in a row, but are you a believer right now in the Saints with Teddy Bridge?
You know what? It's funny you asked me that because on the audibles, and I've cut some, slack in the chat before because I was really down on what Teddy Bridgewater was doing over the first couple of games. But sometimes it does take some players. We saw it in Philadelphia with Nick Foles when Carson Wentz went down. Took him a little bit of time to get in the fold. He was sensational. But then again, it was against Tampa Bay. But this version of Teddy Bridgewater, I want much more than the one I even saw in Seattle and versus the Los Angeles Rams. I think he's okay now at this point, Jay.
He didn't throw a 20-yard pass until last week downfield.
Yeah, correct.
It's amazing. I don't know what to like. My eyes tell me that this defense is better than what the metrics say they are. They're in the bottom third of the league in defensive efficiency, but I don't know. They look better to me than what that says. I mean, Kamara is big. You said he's active.
He's active,
man. Yeah. Latavius Murray's not a bad backup, right? But I mean, man, losing Kamara is really, really big. Even if his workload is cut in half, that's substantial. I am a huge fan of the mustache, Donnie.
Now, he's a good. Yeah.
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on Minshew?
Yeah, we're going to get to Minshew here in just a second, but to counter your point there with Alvin Kamara, because what did we look at last week? And again, sometimes when you're breaking these games down, Jay, we look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and settle in, get the numbers fresh, and see how things are going to match up. Because if you flipped on the tape last week, like I always do on Mondays and Tuesdays, I say, "Oh my God, man." Christian McCaffrey in that running game, they just absolutely sizzled the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, Alvin Kamara is on deck. Looks like they might be able to duplicate some of those game plans. Now, if he's dinged up, I mean, you're right. Latavius Murray is a good NFL running back, but he's not run CMC down in Carolina, and he's not Alvin Kamara, so that could be a big one. But getting back to your Minshew point on this one, one of the more interesting things, because, I lost a game. I had the Denver Broncos a couple weeks ago against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sitting there, close to the half. All right, Flacco, drive down, get this field goal. Let's go up 20-3. This quarterback in is a rookie. Ain't no way he's coming back. He gets a little bit of life, and he plays really well. So I'm even to the point now where I'm saying, you know what? You sign Nick Foles to a big money contract this year, and you're looking to have him for the next 2 to 3 years, settle down that team. I'm not so sure that he should even get his job back. Minshew is cheap. Minshew is young. He's athletic, and he looks like a vet out there right now, Jay.
It would be, man, it would be terrible if Foles doesn't get the opportunity to be the starting quarterback after what he did for the franchise that you root for. My God, that would be the worst luck possible for Nick Foles. But I don't know, man. Are you looking to lay 2.5 points right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
It's hard because, again, early in the week, like I really liked the New Orleans Saints. I thought they were the right play. Like everything that I like to look at, pass rush ability, pass blocking, every single thing outside of Minshew's ranked a little bit higher than Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback overall. But everything else really slants to the New Orleans Saints because it's right. You usually say like the Jacksonville Jaguars, oh my God, their defense is really good. No. The Saints defense is actually better than the Jaguars this year. Well, the Jaguars pass rush is really good. No. The New Orleans Saints have a better pass rush this year than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you're looking at a team on the road hot. And if Kamara is down, you're looking at saying, all right, Teddy, go on the road outdoors and win this football game for us. Because if you're getting 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, again, we get back to the same points. Like, hey, you're not really leaning on the points. You're basically saying New Orleans has to go to Jacksonville and win the football game. I still think they can. And it's nice that Jalen Ramsey isn't going to play if you are backing the Saints today. Just gives you a little bit more of an added cog there.
Okay, 100% you're right. The Saints defense right now is better than Jacksonville. And this is a Jacksonville team that Pro Football Focus, Football Outsiders, they projected the Jacksonville defense to be in the top 2 in professional football coming into the year. And they are not, man. They're in the bottom 6 in defensive efficiency. So, yeah, it's take the points with the Saints at plus 2.5 or pass. I know the total right now is around 42.5, I think, right? I'm not sure exactly where it opened, though.
Yeah, it looks like it opened actually at 44 at Pinnacle Offshore. It opened up at 43.5 at Chris Offshore, now settling into 42.5 primarily, Jay, across the board at this point.
You have to lean. I completely agree with the line move. You have to lean under, right?
No, I would look the same way because maybe last week's an anomaly because we're watching today like Carolina just eviscerating the Buccaneers defense. So you do have to take that into a little bit of effect. Jacksonville is a better defense overall, but some of the things that you just talked about, like take a look at like the rankings, which again, if you're just going back and we say, oh, the Jacksonville defense, all you think of is super athletic linebackers, an unbelievable pass rush, Boye and Jalen Ramsey locking it down. But some other ones that you take a look at, even with Pro Football Focus here, Jay, pass blocking ratings. The Saints are number 2 in the NFL at pass blocking. And we say, well, that Jack, and Ngakoue and, Calais Campbell, they're going to be coming after it. They're actually the 18th rated pass rush. So the advantage would be towards the Saints. And then when you flip it around, when you're thinking again, pass blocking, the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit banged up on the offensive line, the 25th rated offensive line. And the pass rush for the New Orleans Saints ranked in the top 10 in the NFL this year. That's where that game could be decided or won at this point.
Yeah. I mean, everything you just said leads me to say you have to take the points or you pass on the game.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. And I'm excited to watch it actually play out because you put a lot of time in these games. You're like, you know what? Look at that pass rush is picking it up. But hell, I mean, Minshew could make plays, which we've seen him in the pocket. He's doing stuff that you're not supposed to do as a rookie. I'm talking about, looking off wide receivers, pump faking, going to the opposite side of the field. When the play breaks, because we usually wake up early and we're watching these games, especially the one today in Tampa Bay. And I bring up Jameis Winston, where he has no pocket awareness whatsoever. 5 guys are rushing him. He doesn't get the ball out quick. But when when you're getting collapsed on, you duck out of the pocket, you step up, you deliver the football. Minshew's been doing that fantastically here, Jay, early in the season.
I'll tell you right now, man, when last year when he was at Washington State, I loved this kid, right? But all I heard come draft time was it was Mike Leach and the genius of his system and not this quarterback, right? But he has done some really surprising things. The whole world was on Tennessee a couple weeks ago, and Jacksonville came out and punched him right in the mouth, and Minshew got the job done. I mean, he's not Russell Wilson, obviously, but I think in a couple years, this kid could be the truth.
And I always like to play these like buy or sell type situations here on the shows we do with Jeff or even Jimmy or anybody. If you would have to pick right now, because we see again, heart to hearts aren't working right now with Jalen Ramsey. And it was noted like a week and a half ago, you could get 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey when he actually doesn't even want to play for your football team. Buy or sell for you here, Jay. Does Ramsey ever play another down in Jacksonville for the Jaguars?
Ooh, that's I'm going to lean no. It's a tough call. I'm going to lean no. But Donnie, how do you not take 2 first-round picks for a guy that doesn't want to play for your team?
Why don't we just wait around and it's like when you have a car and say, hey, I'm going to say somebody's going to give you a nice offer for $10,000 for a used car. Yeah, I'm good. And it turns out for $7,000 and $5,000 and $4,000 and oh my goodness, I'm just going to give it to like my daughter or something like that because I can't even sell it anymore. 2 first-rounders for somebody who doesn't want to play. Sign it immediately. And the best part was the shot across the bow today when you saw some of the reporting coming out that said Jalen Ramsey, who saw a back specialist, Indianapolis, and they couldn't really find anything wrong with his back. He's still inactive with a back injury. You got to move on from the guy. We're looking forward to that football game, but as always, we got to keep it moving here. We can't spend all day on these games. About another 20, 25 minutes left in the show. Let's hit this one here. How about this? Near and dear to my heart, 261, 262, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. Last time the Eagles went up, didn't play the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Champagne splashing around. The Eagles are playing the good front here. And what I mean by that is they're getting asked a lot, hey, when you walk into the stadium, you're going to be real nostalgic. No, this is a business trip. That doesn't mean anything. We have to go out and perform. I do like that. Does Minnesota have revenge on their mind for a couple of years ago? No, they beat Philadelphia last year. So that's really going to be out. This is a one-off because this is one of those games that is sort of a playoff game in the NFC. If you get the win here, you don't play these teams, 2 games like you would if it's the Dallas Cowboys or the Washington Redskins for the Philadelphia Eagles or the Bears or the Packers for the Vikings. So if you get that win today, that's really a game and a half in the standings because if you come back at the end of the year and you are tied, Jay, they're looking straight at this game saying, you know what? Edge goes to the team that beat them. You're going to get that coin flip and head into the playoffs as maybe a home game as opposed to going on the road. This is a good one because we opened up at 3.5. You saw the line actually, Jay, Monday, Tuesday, maybe early in the Wednesday, actually get to 2.5 where that Eagles money was coming in. But over the last 48 hours, it's been more Minnesota money. The prevailing line across the board right now is really 3.5 with light juice going towards the Vikings. So obviously taking the Philadelphia Eagles plus 3.5. What's your early thoughts on this game here, Jay?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I understand that the Eagles are 3-2, but they are one of only 2 teams in the league right now that are in the top 6 in both offensive and defensive DVOA. Right now, here's my thoughts, and I'm happy I get to talk to you about this because you're such a big fan of it.
Yep.
Now, my problem with this Eagles team is the secondary. Right now. Correct. They have had such a dominant front 7 the last few seasons that the secondary did not have to play as hard as they're playing this year. But because this front 7 has been ordinary this year and not incredibly dominant, the secondary is now you're seeing the cracks in the secondary. I think that is the biggest Achilles heel or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yep, sure.
For
weakness.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
What do you think about this the secondary?
Here's where it plays in because you get the tale of 2 seasons already with the Philadelphia Eagles. You see when they go up against a decent offensive line, they don't get their pass rush. You can sort of get roasted on the back end because their corners aren't as good. And anybody in the NFL that's playing their 3rd and 4th corners, they're going to get beat up a little bit, and you have to rely on the pass rush. The one thing that gives you hope if you're an Eagle backer today, Jay, we saw it last week, right, against the Jets. Jets have forget the quarterback itself or the game plan itself. The Jets offensive line isn't very good. The Eagles get double-digit sacks in that game. You get a lot of feel-good stuff because the ultimate equalizer and tonic for a really bad secondary, Jay, beat your man up front, get pressure on the quarterback, move him off his spot that he likes to throw, and that's going to help out your secondary. So the key coming into this game is Minnesota Vikings don't have a very good offensive line. And the worst part about their offensive line is the interior, which Fletcher Cox now coming back off his off-season surgeries. Each game is getting better and better. He has to win his battles up front because the hardest thing any quarterback will tell you, Jay, it's not so much the speed rusher like a Von Miller or Jadeveon Clowney coming off the end. It's the front defensive tackles pushing the guards and the centers into your lap. We have to move outside the pocket to make a pass. That's where this game is going to be won. The Eagles have a major advantage. Now, if you look at the other side, Minnesota has a great defense. Fast athletic linebackers, good secondary, one of the best safety tandems you're going to find in the NFL, and 2 really good defensive ends. But the way you quell that is you have 2 top 10 tackles in the NFL. As long as Jason Peters continues to stay healthy, he's playing at a top 10 level at his position at left tackle. The same thing with Lane Johnson. I think you have a quarterback advantage here with the Philadelphia Eagles. I do think this game is close, and it's one of those games, Jay, where I can legitimately say, if you got the 2.5, you're probably taking the Vikings, but if you're getting the 3.5 to me, you're probably taking the Eagles.
If you bet every -2.5 and every +3.5 in the NFL, you'll hit at a 55% clip over the long term. That is a fact, right? This is a double-edged sword. Is anybody looking to lay 3.5 points with Kirk Cousins, right? Yeah, I'm not a Kirk Cousins believer, but since the day of his tenure, there is no coach that has a better record against the spread than Mike Zimmer. He is 65% almost against the spread since he started as a head coach, and the guy in second is Belichick at like 60%. I can't lay 3.5 with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I personally, I would be on the Eagles here at plus 3.5, but I'm not a teaser guy. I don't bet a ton of them occasionally, but if you were looking for a teaser piece, right? You would have to say a 2-team 6-point tease. You would probably tease it from plus 3.5 to plus 9.5, and I think you got a good piece there. Not for me, teasers really that much, but personally, I would, even though Zimmer's great against the spread, I would be on the Eagles here at plus 3.5 all day.
Now, well, let's take a look at the total in this game, because early in the week, I was and obviously getting the right line. It opens up at 44. Immediately, I thought over in this football game. I thought over immediately because you like the matchups, because you think Minnesota can score. Why? Kirk Cousins has had some success against Philadelphia, but they're home in the Dome. It's nice conditions. And yes, you have Thielen and Diggs on the outside. And you have Dalvin Cook in your backfield. I know the Eagles are very good against the run. We'll see if that holds up today, but the weapons are there that you should be able to score points against the Eagles, and vice versa. Even though Minnesota has a really good defense, the Giants only got 10 points on them last week, but there were 3 offensive red zone shots where if they were playing under normal conditions, you might add 9 points or even more, scoring a touchdown in that instance. So both of these teams should be able to play the 20s. Actually, still at 45, like the over in this ballgame. You got any thoughts on that?
I like the over too. And I'll tell you why. The Eagles offense looked really good against a really improved secondary against the Packers a couple weeks ago. That Packers secondary was a sieve last year. They're one of the most improved units going in so far this season. And the only team that made that secondary look like it did last year were the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this game could easily go over. I don't think the problem is going to be Philadelphia putting points up on Minnesota. I think the problem is going to be if the Eagles front seven gets a push, and they don't have to rely that heavily on the secondary. I can see the Minnesota Vikings not scoring that many points here. But if they cannot get that push and we see that ordinary front seven that we've seen all year, then I think Kirk Cousins is going to have time to go over the top.
No, I can agree with you there. It can go a lot of different ways. And I'm just an old school type guy. Like if I can win the battle of the trenches, which I think the Eagles have the better offensive line, and I think the Eagles defensive line could do things to the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, which obviously can't happen, vice versa. This is going to be really good. This is a measuring stick game. And look, you guys know I'm an Eagles fan. I wear Eagles shirts. I got Eagles stuff in the background, but I'm usually one of the more harsh critics. They have a 3-game stretch coming up here, Jay. Obviously going on the road to Minnesota this weekend. You got Dallas on deck, which we're going to talk about Dallas in just a few moments. And then you have the Buffalo Bills. You have a 3-game road stretch against 3 premier teams in the NFL. I actually have them going 1-2 in this stretch. But hey, if you're getting 3.5, theoretically, you don't have to win the ball game. I lean towards the Philadelphia Eagles in this football game. I lean towards the over, and that's where we'll leave it at that one. But there's some good 1 o'clock games that we have now. We have one more 1 o'clock game, which this is a fascinating game for all the wrong reasons, because the winner of this football game is going to close themselves out and probably not be able to pick up the number 1 pick. The loser is actually theoretically the winner in this football game. But how about this late line movement? 6.5 was the lookout line last week if you're betting this football game before anything took place in week 5 in the NFL. It reopens 4.5, goes down to 3.5, but now we see a resurgence of the Washington Redskins, Jay. 5.5s across the board with a total of 42.5 now. And talking on the Audible all week on with Whale Capper and Jimmy, I like the over in this ball game. 100%. More than a side. 2 bad football teams. Offensive coordinator that's going to be brand new, calling plays all by himself without Jay Gruden overlooking his shoulder. He's going to want to throw the kitchen sink at a bad Miami football team. I think McLaren has a good game at wide receiver. I think there's some weapons that can move the football, vice versa on both sides. Well, how can you do that? Josh Rosen in this, horrible offense. 2 bad teams get together, fake punts, fake field goals, turnovers. I want to see it happen here today.
Donnie, a big misconception when you have 2 bad football teams is that they're not going to score. They're not going to be able to put up points. But when you have 2 bad football teams, the chances are you're going to see more points on the board than not, because the defenses are usually worse than the offenses, right? Now, I mean, listen, don't count the Jets out. We're 0-4. Who knows? I hope we get the number 1 pick. But yeah, you're right. The loser of this game is the winner, 100%. Do we know who is the quarterback who's starting for the Redskins?
It's actually, which is funny because, Keenum stinks. But actually, to me, Keenum is better than not Kirk Cousins. Keenum is better than Colt McCoy, and Keenum is better to me than Haskins in a 1-game one-off if he's healthy. So I actually like the fact
100%. Yeah. He lit your team up for 400 yards in the first week. Yeah. Now, they didn't win the ball game because it's the Redskins and it's the Eagles, obviously, right? But he played well enough to win that football game, I thought. In a one-off, I think you're 100% correct. Give me Keenum over McCoy and Haskins, even though we have no idea what Haskins is going to be anyway. But I like the over in this game. I can't pick a side here, Donnie. I guess. I guess when you have two bad football teams, you just take the points, right? But I wouldn't feel good about putting my money on either of these teams. But I like the over. I agree. Two bad football teams, a ton of shit could happen. And I could see the game going over.
No, I agree with you there. And again, one of these plays I'm going to tie in at the end of the show, as we always like to give out some plays, at the end of the show. Today, the show ends at 12:45, so we got about 10 more minutes of that. But I'm going to go over a couple. I'm actually going to tie in two plays to this horrendous game, and I think we're going to be able to make a little bit of money on it. Let's keep it moving. No need to go over that game any more than what we just covered here between me and Jay. 265, 266, the Rams and the 49ers. Now, how about this one? Opens up in like that, 4-3 range. You're saying, wait a second, 4.5, the Rams. Ooh, I want to get all over the 49ers. Well, the betting public said, absolutely, I'm getting all over them. We have threes across the board right now. Now, key injury information. You're going to have a missing left tackle and right tackle. Projected starters on the season from the 49ers that are down. Kyle Juszczyk will be down for this football game. George Kittle at tight end. They're saying, yeah, he's going to suit up today, but we're not too sure if he's actually going to make it through this football game with a groin injury. And then you look on the flip side, no Clay Matthews for this game with a broken jaw. You're also going to miss Todd Gurley, and also Aqib Talib is going to be out. So some major, name players, I would like to say, with the Rams. But I got to tell you, looking at it, I think San Francisco's in a tough spot this week, and a game that, the Rams get extra preparation time, as we always talk about before. We know the San Francisco 49ers played on Monday Night Football. We know the previous Thursday night game, the Rams played in that one. I can't fault anybody, to be honest with you, though. If you're going to come in this game, so you know what? I'm going to buck the trend. Kyle Shanahan's going to dial up some plays. The 49ers will keep it close, because when you have a dominant front seven like the 49ers have, you're always in the ball game, Jay.
I love this 49ers team, Donnie. They're the only team in the top four on Football Outsider DVOA for both offense and defense. Listen, man, I'm a Jimmy G fan, and what is amazing about this 4-0 start is they have done it with him playing average at best. Yeah. I think if he ever gets his shit together and we see the Jimmy G that we saw up until he got injured the last couple seasons, I think they're a playoff team. It was a buy on for me. I think they're going to win the division personally. I know a lot of people are on Seattle, but I'm picking them to win the division. And I took them in the article that I wrote for Odds Market a couple months ago. I went over 8 wins because I think they have a very underrated defense. This defense is legit. And they've proven it on the field. I mean, everybody was on the Browns last week. It was a joke. And I think these are two teams going in opposite directions, man. I understand that the Rams are, they're 3-2 and their head's still above water. And once Jared Goff gets going, they can go on a run. But the more I think about Jared Goff, I don't know if it's McVay's system that has made him good. And that's the reason why he was so god-awful. Yeah. When he started with Jeff Fisher, or is he like good, man? I mean, up through week 8 last year, he was the leading candidate for MVP, and then it fell by the wayside. But you have an injured Todd Gurley, like you said, Talib's out. I think they're two teams going in opposite directions. I took the points. It was plus 3.5 for me all day.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because I know we always like these closing lines, so we like to get ready for today. The future is so bright in San Francisco. I mean, if this team can get healthy, they're going to go out in the offseason. Let's just say they can make a trade and get an A.J. Green, because we all know they went after Odell Beckham Jr. in the offseason and missed out, and he ends up going to Cleveland for a little bit sweeter deal. They're a really good football team, or I should say this team is on the rise over the next couple of years. It'll be fun to watch. I do lean towards the Rams today, but I don't have any official action on that. 267, 268, Matt Ryan goes out, and look, this is one of those games we talk about in the industry where, hey, take a loss for Atlanta. People aren't coming back on that plane. They will be fired. Changes will be made. Is this going to be one last stand for the Falcons in this football game? Or is this going to be, hey, Arizona got their win last week. Let's start, rolling it over. We get some feel-good confidence. Or is this one game with the young football team that we take a look at, Jay, and they say, you know what? We just had a lot of champagne last week. We celebrated a lot. Oh, yeah, we got a football game we got to play this weekend. Is this a last stand for Atlanta? Or is this in Atlanta? See ya.
There was a ton of people that were high on this Falcons team going into the year, and I just didn't see it. I don't know what this team does good that people like. Matty Ice is okay. Freeman's not bad at running back. They have some weapons with Ridley and Jones and Sanu, but they're 27th in defense. They're 20th in offensive efficiency. They're a bad football team. Okay. Now on the flip side, I don't know what the Cardinals are right now with Kyler Murray. I don't know how to judge this kid, but this is what I'll say, and it's worked more than it hasn't this year. If you're looking to bet this game, I would take whoever the Cardinals are playing in the first half every week, because they have not had success in the first half of football games. And the reason I think that is because they have the fastest snap rate in the NFL. They are steaming on that offense. So the defenses get tired in the second half. That's why the Cardinals put up their points in the second half of games, and they are average at best in the first half of games. It's worked 2 out of the last 3 weeks for me. I have faded them in the first half. And, you could take them in the second half because it seems like they get the majority of their points in the second half of these games. And I think, like I said, the snap rate has something to do with it. But for me, I cannot bet the Atlanta Falcons for the game. But you might take a look at the Falcons in the first half. That's all I would have in this game.
Yeah, the one thing I also agree with you, Jay, is we're taking a look at the totals in this game, right? Pinnacle opens 49, Chris opens at 47. It's at 53 at some outlets, and I agree with that because you should get points in this game. You saw it last year. Atlanta wasn't really able to – and again, we're talking about Houston is not really, Arizona's offense, but you could sort of have that mesh point saying there's going to be a lot of snaps, as you pointed out in this football game. There's a lot of weapons out here today. It would have been nice to have Christian Kirk back if you were backing Arizona to help get a little bit more speed out there, wide receiver. Larry Fitzgerald should still have a decent football game, something to look out for. I do lean Atlanta in this football game, and I still do lean under, but really the value is gone. You wanted that game around that 49.5, 50 range.
Right.
That's no longer there at this point. So it is what it is. 269, 270 up in your neck of the woods here, Jay. Dallas and the New York Jets. You say, oh my God, the Jets suck. They're awful. How could you possibly back them? But hey, you got to look sometimes. Look, pro football teams don't really look ahead. But if there's one instance that you want to look ahead, it's probably with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles on deck next week. So you see coming up, Jerry Jones comes out during the week. Hey, at least one of our tackles is going to play. Now, we don't get an active report, so about an hour and 15 minutes before the game. This is a 4:25 game. We won't have that. But we're on the street here, Jay. No La'el Collins, no Tyron Smith in this game. You're down both of your stud tackles. Does that maybe leave the door open for a cover for the Jets here?
Oh, Donnie, I'm a diehard New York Jets fan. I have season tickets, even though I have to sell them now. But man, the sad part is the Jets have a solid defense. They're a top 10 defense right now, right? But it doesn't matter because they cannot move the ball. Okay, Sam Darnold is back, right?
Yep.
I'm not sold on Sam yet. I don't think I can. You tell me right now if Sam Darnold's a franchise quarterback or not? No, right?
He's not now, but I think he can be. Yes, but I do see your point for today.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, listen. Can we agree that the spot warrants you take the Cowboys off that atrocious performance against Green Bay last week? Right.
Yes, in a way, and I'm going to counteract your point here in a minute. Go ahead.
All right. So. Yeah, listen, am I looking to lay the 7 with Dallas? No, I'm not. But I can't take the 7. Like I took the 22 when they played the Patriots and they did not score an offensive touchdown. And I was lucky to cover that game, right? Am I comfortable only giving the New York Jets right now as this offense is constituted? You're only going to give the Jets a 1 touchdown head start against a Cowboys defense that, is not as good as the Jets, believe it or not. They're like just inside the top 20, but they have the number 1 offense in football, going by Football Outsiders analytics, right? So I would lean towards laying the 7 here. I'm not going to lay the 7, but if I had to lean one way, I would say lay it.
Say I have the same viewpoint as you because I don't actually want to play this game. I try to build a case all week for the Jets, but again, it's the Jets. You can only see what's going on. Yes, Darnold's coming back, but he hasn't saw live bullets in a couple weeks. I think the mindset of the Dallas Cowboys is let's get in here, let's get a win, let's get out of here. It doesn't matter how we get it. So I don't know if they're going to be able to stretch this lead. I would lean toward the New York Jets, but obviously don't have a take here. Let's go a quick, guns blazing here. Tennessee, Denver. I don't really have too much on that one. Pittsburgh and the Chargers are the night game, obviously with Devlin Hodges going to get his first start. Are those two games games. You have any looks in this one? Because I pretty much stayed away from both of these, even though I consider Denver as like my long lost child. I usually like to take them, but I'm off them for this game, Jay.
No, I don't like all four of these teams. Obviously, the Chargers would have been a good football team, but they have been the most decimated team in the National Football League from an injury standpoint. It's hard to win if you have they have 7 starters out in this game. So, Hodges, believe it or not, was a stud at Samford, but Samford doesn't get any attention. Both these games are a pass. I bet nothing on either of these games.
Yeah, if I had a lean in this game, I still, I'm not really a big fan of Pittsburgh or even taking, third string quarterbacks per se in football games, but I think the game's going to be a close game tonight. I would lean that way. We are out of time today, but as we like to leave you with a couple little goodies here. We've been very good here on the closing line over the past couple weeks here at sportsbookreview.com. I'm going with a 3-pack today, Jay. My 3-pack, hold your nose. We're going Miami Dolphins first half plus 3.5. Coming off the bye, scripted plays, rah, but maybe not enough to hold on for a full game. I think Miami covers first half. Also like the over 42 in that ball game. And we touched on it earlier, Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans, over the total of 54.5. What do you got, Jay? Anything good today?
I agree with you on that total, Donnie. I'm on it. I like the Green Bay Packers, man. I know we didn't get to it, but that line at SPR odds says it opened up at 6. I do not understand if that's true, why that line went from 6 to down to 3.5. I think the Green Bay Packers are for real. The defense is improved. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, but we all know that they only win football games in the Dome. And now they're going to go to Lambeau Field, getting a little more than a field goal. For me, that's my favorite play of the week. Give me the Packers. I'm on that 54 total with you. I like it. And I like the San Francisco 49ers, man, plus the 3.5. I'm taking a shot. I'm swinging for the fence. The Los Angeles Rams the last 3 weeks have looked average at best. Forget the hype. Look at what you've seen on the field. They've been average. And San Francisco looks phenomenal right now. I think they will run all over that defense, even though they have the best player in the world in Aaron Donald. Give me San Francisco plus 3.5, Green Bay minus 3.5, and I'm on that total with you.
Fantastic. We are ready for yet another week of football. We do want to thank you for supporting the channels here at sportsbookreview.com. As always on the closing line, we'll be here each and every week at 12 o'clock breaking down the best information. Today, I do want to thank you, Jay, for being a part of the show. It's been a lot of fun to go over some stuff. But hey, look, the fun doesn't end at sportsbookreview.com today. Jay, what do we got going on the rest of the day here at the channels, brother?
Listen, Donnie, it was a pleasure to do this with you. I've been watching you a long time. I started a live betting show 9 months ago. Last week, SBR picked it up. And our first week, we had a ton of success. We had 13 winners yesterday live on SBR doing college football. We were live from noon till 11 last night. We will be live from 1 o'clock today through Sunday Night Football. I am a lunatic. This is how I make my money. It's how the rent gets paid. And I decided to put a camera in front of my face and, give the world a window into what I do. So we crushed it yesterday. Come hang out with us today. We're on Monday night for the Monday Night Football game with Jimmy and Flash. Thursday night, I'm going to start begging Donnie soon to come hang out with us on a Thursday night. We're going to do Thursday Night Football, and then we're going to be there Friday, 7:15 to midnight, and then Saturday, noon to 11. Today, 1 through Sunday Night Football. We made a lot of money in the last 9 months, and you guys should come and hang out with us. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. NFL Sunday on deck right here at sportsbookreview.com. Please support the channels. Everything we do here, SBRodds.com for all the latest and all the line movements. I'm Donnie. He's Jay. Good luck on your wagers today. And Jay's got a long way to go and a lot of money to win. Take care, folks.